Revelando Casa Planas es un programa del Centro Cultural Casa Planas en Radio Cultura 96.9 FM, en Radio Cultura Online y en Radio Cultura Mallorca en Facebook. Información y entrevistas a artistas e investigadores residentes o vinculados a Casa Planas. Presenta Andrea Camp.
Good morning everyone that is listening to Radio Cultura. Welcome one more day at Revelando Casa Planas, a radio broadcast where we interview different people that come together here in the Cultural Center. Thanks to Federico Marotta, who controls Radio Cultura and lets us this space. Today, in the framework of the Costa Observatory, which is a collective research that we are doing on the effects of tourism, there are with us Gunn, Enli, Trine, Syvertsen and Ignacio Bergillos. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. So they are here today because they're gonna do like a talk and a presentation on a project on media disconnection and sustainability. And now we're gonna do a little bit of spoiler, but just also to document like the content of the talk and everything. But maybe also you come here in collaboration with the CESAC, which is a school. But you can tell us more, like maybe you can do a little bit of introduction of yourself, and then we're going to talk about the project.
Okay. Maybe I should start and introduce the activity. So, yes, I'm Ignacio Bergillos. I come from CESAC. I'm a lecturer there. At CESAC we have communications degrees and media studies. And so within our usual activity, we do research and try to connect our research with teaching. And that's why I invited Gunn and Trine to our department to know a little bit more about their projects and how they work in Oslo, and just also to learn from them. And because we always try also to have a connection with our environment and with in terms of not only sustainability but also social and cultural impact. I sent an email or talked with the Casa Planas, and together we proposed this small session, which is going to be very not improvised, but I would say very authentic, because we will explore the archive and we will also try to justify the importance of looking at media when analyzing not only our present but also the past, because sometimes when we look at the present we try to project the future, and I'm convinced that maybe it's better to understand the present by looking at the past. So I think this is a great place to do that, and let's hope for a very interesting discussion on the keywords that we chose, which are media. So what is media and what was media and how was media used in the past and how we use media today, and at the same time how that is connected with sustainability. So how can we have a sustainable life using media? Is that possible? And maybe also to talk a little bit about the concept of disconnection, which is in the last years quite important in terms of explaining our relationship with media, because sometimes it can be very frustrating or maybe too saturating. And at the same time, when we do find this connection, we try to find also authenticity, which is finding a genuine way of living, or really connecting to what we are living and not what technology tells us. And because of that, I think that Gunn and Trine are the best possible people that come here, because they have published extensively, and I want to tell you all the publications that they have, but basically they are very experts in these two concepts, this connection and authenticity. So I'm very happy to have them here, and let's hope that they also get to know a little bit more about the authentic Mallorca, or how Mallorca has been represented in media in the last decade. So welcome and thank you for being here.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much. It's lovely to be here. and thank you also for that introduction. I think, as you say, maybe it's a little confusing because we are talking about so many different things at the same time. We are talking about media, we're talking about tourism, we're talking about authenticity and disconnection and sustainability. But I think for us as media scholars, there are if we start with, for example, media and tourism, there are so many ways that they go together. Maybe we do not think about it. And of course, we are here in a photo archive, right?
Yeah.
So we know that all the photos that are taken of the tourism, they have maybe frozen it in time, so now we look at these photos, and the images we have is actually from photos, right? So this is how media works. It gives us the images that we believe in. We cannot travel back to the past, so we have to look at it in photos. So without media, we would not have these ideas. And then also you can see maybe in the photos that people are using media. You can see people are using cameras or maybe old radios, and then start to use Walkmans, So you can also use the pictures to learn about how people would use media before. But then when you think about disconnection, you also see that if you look at the beach now or a photo now, people would post their photos now on Instagram, right? So they would all the time take photos that are not just for the family, but they would be also for social media. And that also leads to over-tourism, because it's the most viral photos, that gets the most likes or the most traction. So also today there's a strong link between media sustainability and also maybe people's need to disconnect, to not all the time take photos and post, but trying to just be in the experience. And so I mean, So there are, and also many more, but there are so many ways that these different concepts are connected.
And it's very interesting, and that you'll see when you visit the archive just after this talk. And it's very interesting what you said about looking at the past through these photographs, because most of the photographs that we're taking, like to promote tourism, they don't necessarily like reflect the real life. And this is very interesting also to like analyze, to see how also the similarities between the social media that we use today and that big promotion that was done on tourism and to make people come here, and all these imaginaries that are not related to reality sometimes. And so this is one part of the archive that is very interesting too. But
that is also very, very, because I wanted to introduce also Gunn and Enli's work, because she's worked on the concept of authenticity. And when you were talking about the imaginaries and how sometimes postcards or photos try to capture something that is real or authentic, but it doesn't always is like that. So you can say that maybe you are constructing some kind of, through media or through the photographs, you're constructing something that may look original or may look as genuine, but maybe it's not. And Gunn has a lot of experience on that. Maybe what do you expect when you look at this kind of archive or photographs? How do you approach the analysis in terms of authenticity?
Yes, I think this is really interesting because, as you said, the relationship between reality as it is and the imagery, the images, it's not like a one-to-one relationship, it's always a selection and it's always mediated. So what I've looked into in my research is how authenticity is constructed by the media, and it's the kind of an image of, for example, Mallorca as a tourism place or as a beautiful place for for sunbathing and in the sun and the ideal. So you're constructing like some fantasy, and so I expect to see that. But when we look at it today, it has also the distance in time, so it's maybe more difficult to know what is authentic. We might be fooled, or we might think that it's more real than it was, because it's the staging in social media today. We know that people are staging their lives to seem like they are having a good time and everything is great with the in the photo, but that behind the scenes there might be more. They might not look that glamorous. But when we look at old images, at least when I do that, I get nostalgia. And part of the things that's all often seen as authentic is the old images, the nostalgia, black and white, for example, blurry photos, blurry filming. Then we think, oh, this is real because it's not like polished. So if there's they said that if it's a rip in the wall or a hole in the wall, then it's more real. That's when the sun comes in, or that's when we really see something.
Yeah, this is an old building, so it's more authentic.
Yeah, and in the literature, when you look at the concept of authenticity, we see that tourists, they are looking for the authentic Spain, or the authentic Andorra, or Oslo, the authentic Oslo. Where is it? It's not here. It's not here. Where is it? And it's always a dilemma or paradox, because when you have cities evolving and they become more globalized, and gentrification of renovation, and then people say this is not authentic, but they look for rundown buildings like the old town, and so maybe tourists seek what seems real rather than what is real, and that's why the tourism industry is constructing. There has to be a little bit of look of old building image. It's
and this paradox is also like, it's what you said, very contradictory, because the tourists come in search of authenticity, but at the same time they contribute also to this gentrification that's going to and so the project you're going to present today is more related to all of this research that you have been doing. And what is your relationship with the school, with CESAC? You is the first exchange that you do here in Mallorca, or you come often? Have you studied like often the theme of Mallorca, or
I know this is the first time we have come here, but we have cooperated with Ignacio now for many years.
20 years.
Yeah. on many different projects, because we have similar ideas. And he suggested today that we do more like we bring our different ideas to the archive, and we then look at the archive. We use that as a resource, and then we try, like now, to apply our ideas to what we see. So it's experimental for us. And it's not. I have a connection with Mallorca because my family always loved Mallorca, and my mother was here a lot, and she knew Spanish, and she doesn't live anymore, so it's a bit nostalgic for me as well, because we were hiking together also in Mallorca. So I think many people around the world also have nostalgic memories of being here and doing and I think that's the paradox we're talking about, that Mallorca is both a place, and they have these issues of sustainability and tourism and gentrification, but also it's like an imaginary, like you said, it's like a dream, and it's part of our past as well, right? It's not just your past is also part of our past, and this image of Mallorca.
It's part of our childhood in a way, where we grew up and people were talking about going to Mallorca for holidays, and it was like a big deal. And back then it was more expensive to travel, more like an exclusive thing to like going abroad, but it was the sun and the idea of the middle.
And do you think that this is a question that I sometimes ask some people that come to visit me when we come here? So also the difference between the expectations and reality, because as you said, maybe some years ago, like 30, 40 years ago, people came here and it was maybe more adventurous, or maybe if you think back 50, 60 years ago, it was more adventurous because it wasn't so easy, and then you move around. So the expectation, I guess, they were lower in terms of let's see what happens. But today, maybe you have other kinds of expectations. I don't know how.
Because you can see it on Google View. You could see people posting images. You could Google everything. So it's more predictable, and also people. When I said I'm going to Palma, specifically the city Palma, my physiotherapist, he told me that he goes here really often on weekend trips with his friends, that it's really easy to get from the airport to the city, and that he knows he just goes straight to the beach, and then it's for the weekend and then back. And then another politician in Norway told me that he has a cabin here. It's like a... he means an apartment. So it's like I have my cabin. So it's like people knows Palma. And when I was thinking about Mallorca before, it was more like the images that were floating around, not like concrete experiences.
But I think also we've done some with our students some studies in our national archive on the history of tourism, and they also show that in the early days of tourism, people had maybe in a sense also more authentic experience. For example, farmers would go here and they would also be interested in how farming was done. Like, so you went on maybe a charter tour, but then you could go to farm, to see how things were doing. So I think also that experience of Mallorca of a play as a place was stronger earlier before it sort of became just that symbol, and I also think of all the souvenirs that people brought home, like my grandparents would have like little things with Mallorca hanging on the wall, they would have brought home, and so it's really two different things, like you talk, the image and the actual experience. And also there is quite a lot on the research on tourism that look at, for example, pollution and also experiences of boredom, for example, of people being food poisoned, So it's a mixed experience. But you asked about what we wanted to do today and our cooperation, and I think the reason why we cooperate is also because there are some similarities also between Norway and Mallorca. And I think in Norway we also sometimes feel like we are almost an island, we are far away. And we have big issues of over-tourism, big discussion now, and with the climate change, and when the Europe getting hotter, there's more people coming to Norway for what's called coolcation, a cool vacation. So we have got this new concept of coolcation, and especially in the north of Norway, where it's very beautiful nature. That's also
mountains.
That's also kind of an imagery, right? So, and also many of the students I have that come from other European countries, they go to Norway because they have this image of the clean and the sustainable, and they forget we have a big oil industry. So I think that's also why we have cooperated, because we see some of the same situation.
And also just going back a little bit to what you were saying about the authenticity in the trip, it's very interesting also because in the beginning you were talking about social media, and I see that sometimes people in social media are more going to places just to take this photo.
Yes, yeah.
They are not actually like visiting the place, or they don't care if it's overcrowded. They just like want to take this photo and just go back home. And it's very strange, like this behavior, because it's like tourism but for not doing tourism, and so it loses all the sense.
Yes, so tourism is about documenting, taking photos, and also for sharing with others. Some are professional, as you said, they influencers, or they make money out of this. But also it's like I've noticed the same thing, that they don't care about, looking around, experiencing, staying there for long. I was in the mountains, so one of the places Trine talked about just now, and I saw a man. He was putting up a tent right in a beautiful spot before the fjord and with a nice view. And he put up like pretending to be there and took photos, and took down his tent and went to the hotel. I don't know where he went, but I was staying in another tent. But he was doing this in a spot that was really beautiful, but hard rock under, so it wouldn't be good to sleep there. So it was just imagining. I don't know.
Also there's like a trophy hunt, like people who also count how many countries they visited. It's like a number, or a number of trophies, or a number of photos. Well, I guess it depends also on which. Because here in Mallorca we also had this discussion about how some places that were very authentic, or tiny beaches that only were known by local people,
secret places.
Now they're not secret anymore, because as you said, Google can show you
and
anything.
Social media sharing.
You can see the exact location where this beautiful...
So there is no secret spots anymore.
No, I guess not.
Or at least there is like I saw recently, like also because I've been living here for like a little bit more than 1 year and a half. So what I have seen a lot of people like now this kind of movement that people are saying to each other, like, don't share this post, don't put it on Instagram.
I was going to say, because I think also we have to think now about the disconnection movement, which is sort of a reaction against all this, and also there are lots of tourism places where people go not to be online, right? So it's also about being more, not just doing what you were talking about.
I was going to connect my idea previous of the trophies and all that, because maybe today it's not about showing your trophy. So the privileged experiences are actually offline. So
that's a new luxury, you know.
When we talk about disconnection, one of the first things that when you think a little bit about disconnection, one of the first conclusions that you arrive is that disconnection is actually a privilege. So not everyone can disconnect. So actually tourism is a privilege, because you can go to another place to stop your life and do time for yourself. So that's also actually a disconnection. But within tourism, you can also disconnect from these trends and locations and do some other experiences that are authentic or real, but they're not necessarily connected to social media or to what you tell others what you have done.
I think that disconnection tourism is also connected to other concepts like eco-tourism or slow tourism, or slow food, or so there's like little small movements that are sort of connected in, and I think they are more connected in presence, about actually spending more time being where you are, slowing down, seeing people, not just putting up your tent and leaving. Just try to also the idea of sense of place is very strong in this movement, that you try to sense the place, you think of the history, you meet some people, and we have written quite a bit about this, how people are really longing back for this, but of course, like you say, it's also can become a construction, right?
So Yes.
Yeah, the idea of being present here and now, and don't use the phone when you are talking to people, when you are at restaurants. So the disconnection movement is perhaps a trend in tourism. And when you ask people, or why do you want to go offline, it's often that they seek some more authentic life. But what is authentic life? It's maybe also an idea of being who you are, and not always trying to be cool or to smile and to take selfies, because then you are like self-presenting yourself. Then you have to construct an image of yourself, and you have to be self-conscious. So I think that being not self-conscious but just be in the world, that in a way you have to be self-conscious in the way that you act nice to other people, but not that you should pose or look a different way, or that this should be, because also research say that if we think about always the next photo, then we can't really enjoy the places we are. We can't really be present.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and sometimes I was thinking, because now you were saying like, what is authenticity? And I was thinking that maybe sometimes authenticity can be also ugly.
Yes, I really ugly.
And
like
sometimes
tears with mascara.
And maybe people like are not looking for this, in tourism, or in like maybe the authentic place is the more
poor people suffering. I mean, it's lots of sad, authentic life, struggle, life of struggles. So we really don't want to see that all the time.
Yeah, so
or boring, no? As you said earlier.
Yeah, so boring.
Yeah.
You can also be bored when you are on vacation, like and it's not something.
It's in the tourism research that is a discussion, because often being a tourist, or it's seen as something very different from everyday life, like it's supposed to be an adventure. It's supposed to be very different, and then
you have to do something new every day.
Yeah, you have to do something new, and everyday life is seen as very boring and regular, and then. This has been the way it has been looked at in tourism research, but now people are starting to criticize it. And they say, for example, it can be boring, or they also say, maybe if you are a tourist, maybe the first thing you want to do is to make yourself at home. So you find your regular coffee shop, and then you start behaving like everyday life, because every day you go there for coffee, and then so it's like everyday life, but as a tourist. You understand? Yeah. And I think that's for all the people who go abroad to live and maybe work in co-working spaces or things like that. They very quickly make it everyday life. Yeah.
And I have a friend. He moved to Kenya. And then another friend said, I want to come visit you in Kenya, but I don't want to be a tourist. And he said, well, there's no other way. If you want to come, you will be as a tourist. And then, but she meant that she didn't want to go like, look at me, I'm a tourist. But, so this is also the paradox.
Yeah, so you want to really be...
You want to emerge in the culture.
You want to emerge as well. And then... So it's I think a lot of these categories we have been thinking about, so everyday life or adventure, tourism, or they are in our research, they are breaking up and they are becoming,
I think,
and you say authentic, maybe, bad or poor
ugly.
Or ugly, but I think as media researchers, we are used to think about the world as more constructed. We are used to seeing that there's always some production, and there's some images go viral, some don't, they're not just natural.
No, for me it's like difficult to say that something is authentic without really thinking that this word is covering something, because I sometimes feel more authentic than other times, and but I think also the concept is difficult, because when are what is really authentic, like existentialism, when you are true to yourself, your inner self, you are not responding to the social culture. But often we are negotiating between who we are, what we feel, and what is acceptable. We can't really go crying all the time, screaming, even if it feel like it. So this is like the deep philosophical aspect.
From that construction, it's like you
the social construction when you are with other people in a culture or society, but of course there are degrees more or less authentic lifestyles. And when we wrote about this, we were seeing that the idea of being authentic was often presented as going barefoot, like barefoot in the grass, drawing, not looking at your phone but reading a paper book, doing analog activities.
Anything you can touch.
That's tactile, that's more authentic. And so that's maybe in our culture what we see as more authentic are those things.
Yeah, I think they are related to, because now I've been traveling through Spain on my own, and then I go to a lot of cafes, and then if you go to a cafe and have a coffee, you cannot sit with your face in the phone, but you can sit with a paper book. That feels polite and authentic and correct. And you can't really sit with your computer in the outdoor.
Anything
you can sit in a coffee bar, but you cannot sit on an outdoor on the Plaza Mayor with your computer.
I did it.
Yeah,
I did that yesterday.
But that's what you can feel that there are different.
Yes, then I was thinking, I don't care what people think.
Exactly.
I just need to do. You have to shut out.
But I immediately felt I had the book on my Kindle, but I need the paper book. So that feels more right since I'm traveling to a beautiful city.
And I think there's a lot to be discussed and studied in terms of media use and in terms of gesture. What gesture do you have to have in a social space, or when you are with friends, or when you are at work, or when you are in a public place? Because and how you can construct also your own identity by doing these media gestures, and that's something
not doing them.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that I'm very curious about the archive here at Casa Planas, because I guess that we will see some images where you can see people having these kinds of gestures. So
gestures.
So maybe like reading a book on a beach, or not, or listening to music, and how far these gestures are real or constructed, because maybe
that's going to be exciting.
Which kind of technologies are more close to nature or not? Because another thing is that we can see today that technology has become very hybridized with nature. You can take your GoPro camera and put that undersea and do undersea photos, which I guess you won't see that in the archive.
No.
It's like the 70s, 80s. There was no cameras for so I guess there's lots of things very interesting in terms of how you behave publicly or in your environment with your media and
I also it relates to nature, but my students are in Oslo. They're doing an experiment where they have to use their phone, but they have to go into nature and take a video as if they were a dog. which they have to, what do you see when you're actually a dog? And it's really fun because you can see like they run through the and they make these little videos. So I think on the other hand, it's also interesting how you can use this technology to help people understand more about nature, So what would be your view if you were a mosquito, for example?
A bird.
And that's they laugh a lot when they do it, but it makes them. I think it makes them think. They make them understand
the perspective of the animal.
You see the trees from underneath, and so they run towards like a stick or something like that. So it's also many ways that you can use this technology to enhance the understanding of nature.
Very interesting.
See, I think it's gonna be very interesting. Actually, I think we have to close a bit.
Covered too many things already.
But I think and also, which I just wanted to add one thing, because in the Costa Observatory, we are looking at this I said it's a collective research because we're putting together people from different sectors and that have different perspectives on the subject, and I think like this is a perspective that we haven't still like approached or at least is a like content that we haven't studied from this perspective.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be very interesting, and also just for you to know, the Costa Observatory is going to last until October when we're going to do like a big congress on the results, all the study groups that we have done, and actually all the study groups are open to everybody. But yeah, so I just I don't know if you want to follow up on what we're gonna do. I think it's gonna be interesting, and yeah, so that's it. Thank you very much. I don't know if you want to add something or
Thank you.
and yeah, so see you soon.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Revelando Casa Planas es un programa del Centro Cultural Casa Planas en Radio Cultura 96.9 FM, en Radio Cultura Online y en Radio Cultura Mallorca en Facebook. Información y entrevistas a artistas e investigadores residentes o vinculados a Casa Planas. Presenta Andrea Camp.